Astounding how easily a once loving bond can shift into a precarious contest of will and hidden agendas. Welcome, dear listener, to Are You Being Manipulated by Your Avoidant Partner? Let us begin by painting a scene that might be uncomfortably familiar. A sudden accusation flares up, or your partner's silence feels weighted, as though every word you utter is a provocation in their eyes. You feel the subtle sting of blame and the uneasy sense that somehow you are on trial for an offense you never knew existed. The conversation, if it can be called such, spirals from an innocent remark into a labyrinth of evasion and hostility, and at the end, you stand in bafflement, questioning, was I just manipulated? Was I made out to be the villain, even though all I wanted was clarity? Confronting the possibility of manipulation from someone who struggles with an avoidant attachment style is no trivial matter. You may assume you are the one at fault. After all, your partner is calm one moment, and then catastrophizing the next, leaving you as the alleged instigator. Or perhaps they denounce you for your never-satisfied demands, branding you as the source of all friction. Yet you suspect there is more lurking beneath that outward veneer of aloofness than simple exasperation. So, are you truly being manipulated? And if so, how can you push aside the emotional fog to see the truth clearly? Imagine an afternoon that starts pleasantly enough. Your partner is nodding along as you share a mild frustration about scheduling or shared plans. You sense a twinge of tension in the air, but carry on, believing open communication is healthy. You say gently, I feel a bit overlooked lately when it comes to planning weekends. Could we talk about finding a way to coordinate better? Without warning, their posture stiffens, their eyes narrow. An indignant frown appears. Suddenly they fling out a phrase like, you always complain, or you never appreciate how busy I am. The thunderclap of an absolute, always, never, strikes, and you're left groping for perspective. Is it mere defensiveness? Possibly, but in the hands of an avoidant partner prone to manipulation, absolute words can be a cunning tactic. They tilt the conversation from a balanced sharing of concerns to a scorching arena of blame and guilt. Now you are on the back foot, hurriedly insisting you don't always do anything, or that you're not out to vilify them. You've been lured into a rhetorical snare. The entire dialogue revolves around their sense of being attacked, an attack you never intended. Often, what triggers this reaction is the feeling of being unexpectedly ambushed. From their vantage point, you withheld dissatisfaction until it morphed into a grand inquisition. Untrue though that may be, perhaps you'd tried subtle hints before. The avoidant mindset can interpret any pointed question as an existential threat. The more manipulative individuals weaponize this worldview. Your complaint blindsided me, so obviously you're the aggressor, and I shall defend myself by painting you as irrational. Sly though it is, it can sow seeds of self-doubt within you. Imagine another scenario. You approach them timidly, hoping to clarify a minor issue about house chores or finances. You choose your words carefully, mindful not to sound accusatory. Yet as soon as you voice your desire for cooperation, your partner acts wounded, retorting with something like, "Do you realize how hard I work, day in and day out for you? If that's not good enough, I guess nothing ever will be." In the blink of an eye, they flip the script. Your gentle request is recast as an outrageous assault on their character. Suddenly, you're stumbling over apologies, uncertain if your grievance was legitimate in the first place. Welcome to the realm of manipulative avoidance. By framing your concern as an unwarranted ambush or a quest to emasculate or belittle them, your partner sidesteps the matter at hand. Indeed, no resolution emerges about that undone chore or upcoming bill. Instead, they've succeeded in making you feel like the offender who must beg forgiveness. Over time, these repeated episodes corrode your confidence, leaving you anxious to voice any dissatisfaction for fear of once again being cast as the villain. But ask yourself, is my request truly so extreme? Or am I being baited into feeling small and hysterical? Healthy relationships welcome constructive feedback. Manipulative avoidance, however, warps feedback into stinging attacks, encouraging you to muzzle your voice. A hallmark of manipulative avoidant behavior is an artful pivot into self-victimization. On the surface, your partner might say, "Well, if you'd only recognized my long day or my stressful childhood, you wouldn't harp on these petty issues." Reasonable enough, at first glance. But deeper inspection reveals a pattern. Anytime you raise a concern, they conjure a personal sob story or injustice to eclipse your feelings. Yes, indeed, they appear to say, "I have had a terrible life, so your valid complaint is overshadowed by my misfortune. Let us end this conversation with me as the wounded soul, while you remain unheard." No one is denying your partner's hardships. We all have them. Yet if their default response is to brandish old wounds the moment accountability knocks, it's less about healing and more about strategic deflection. Should you attempt to recenter the discussion, "I'm sorry you went through that. Could we still address this present concern?" They may interpret your perseverance as insensitivity, pushing you further into the role of the villain. This endless cycle can be deeply maddening, but from a manipulative standpoint, it's highly effective. Each confrontation becomes an occasion for them to highlight your supposed callousness, all while sidestepping the real issue. Lest we tar all avoidant partners with the same brush, let us draw a crucial distinction between an ethically avoidant individual and a manipulatively avoidant one. An ethically avoidant partner might say, "I acknowledge I have limits in how I handle emotional discussions. I want us to communicate, but I'll need time or a clear plan so I don't feel overwhelmed." Such a person sets boundaries without punishing you for your needs. They're transparent. "Right now, I'm drained from work. Let's revisit this in an hour, and I'll give you my full attention." This approach is not only fair, but fosters mutual respect. By contrast, the manipulative avoidant feigns confusion or exhaustion, not as an honest statement of their threshold, but as a tactic to cast your request as an assault. "How dare you bring this up now? Can't you see how busy I am? You just want me to fail." It's not a boundary so much as a blame-laden attempt to quash dialogue. This partner proclaims your immediate concerns are trifling in light of their perpetual struggles, cynically turning conversations into guilt-laced minefields. Possibly the most disorienting feature of being with a manipulative avoidant partner is the speed at which a chat about, say, dinner plans morphs into a heated trial. 10 minutes ago, you were discussing pasta versus pizza. Now you're entangled in a speech about your alleged disrespect and always negative attitude. You scramble to recall how you got here. For them, it's all about controlling the narrative. A skillful manipulator uses evasion, blame, or emotional outbursts at precisely the right times to derail your point. One must always watch for abrupt topic shifts, when the conversation darts from your legitimate point to a new, more convenient battleground. Maybe it shifts from, "We seldom share chores," to, "You don't appreciate me," or from, "I want to plan a holiday together," to, "You're impossible to please." If you detect these leaps often, you might be caught in the manipulator's spiral. How does one escape this perplexing labyrinth? The first step is naming the monster. Recognize repeated patterns of misdirection, deflection, or guilt-tripping as forms of manipulation rather than isolated quirks. Refuse to be lulled by apologies that come without genuine accountability or attempts at change. If your partner gives an abject apology one week, yet the same fiasco replays the next with no sign of new behaviors, you have evidence of cyclical manipulation. Next, Set your own boundary lines, in calm but unwavering terms. I understand you might feel blindsided or fatigued. However, we do need to resolve this. I'm offering to talk at a better time or in a calmer setting, but I won't let it drop entirely. Our relationship deserves solutions. By granting them a moment to breathe while insisting on eventual dialogue, you demonstrate respect for their emotional pace, while standing firmly for your own needs. When they attempt to vanish into self-pity or brand you the hysterical aggressor, return to your central point. I see that you're upset, but we still have an issue with the specific matter. We can handle it cooperatively, or we can let it fester. I believe we can do better. Resist the temptation to get pulled off course, no matter how well they spin their webs. Finally, ask yourself, are they truly open to ethical resolution, or do they thrive on indefinite, draining conflict? If they exhibit an unyielding refusal to meet you in honest, collaborative problem-solving, accusing or belittling you each time you try, then you must decide whether to remain locked in this dynamic. No grand love or fleeting vow is worth an existence of endless manipulation. You can, in the end, politely part ways or seek professional help if they claim a desire to change. Do not let loyalty become a reason to accept perpetual emotional harm. Above all, do not lose sight of your own composure and worth. A manipulative, avoidant partner often relies on emotional confusion to keep the upper hand. The more uncertain you become about your own perspective, the more they can assure themselves that you lack any legitimate ground to challenge them. By cultivating a sense of self, reaching out to supportive friends, or even taking advantage of counseling, you anchor yourself against their rhetorical storms. Remember, love is not supposed to feel like walking a tightrope, terrified that a single misstep will trigger an avalanche of blame. Nor should love's demands require the constant subjugation of your emotional voice. Partnership, at its core, flourishes in mutual respect, clarity, and empathy. An avoidant individual can learn those traits if they genuinely choose. But if they weaponize avoidance to manipulate or control, no outside force can fix them unless they first see their own reflection and pledge to change. Are you truly being manipulated? If you've recognized in these words the cyclical blame, the abrupt swerves from logic to guilt, the constant brush-off of your valid concerns, the answer may be yes. Do not despair. There is no shame in confronting the truth and taking steps to protect your emotional well-being. A future of genuine closeness or peaceful independence awaits, shaped by your ability to stand tall, define the lines, and refuse the manipulative illusions. So let this be your clarion call. Step out from beneath the subtle shadow of manipulation and address the question plainly. Is my partner's avoidance legitimate self-preservation, or is it a crafty excuse to dodge responsibility and keep me perpetually off balance? With that clarified, you can more wisely choose how to proceed, whether forging a healthier partnership with renewed honesty or parting ways to safeguard your mental health. True intimacy should never demand you tiptoe about, fearful of undeserved condemnation. In that knowledge, you find the real hope for a tranquil tomorrow, whether with or without your avoidant partner by your side.
If you believe this video might help someone dear to you, share it with them. A small gesture on your part could mean the world to a friend in need.